After a mysterious and unusual delay, South Park returns with Season 27, Episode 5, Conflict of Interest, this time tackling the ongoing Middle East conflict and the explosive rise of online prediction apps. If a savvy little troll can manufacture outrage to tilt betting odds in his favor,
all we have to do is make sure Kyle stays angry, and at the same time go talk about his mom to goose the odds up even more.
Then what if a world leader could pull the same trick and tilt legitimacy in his favor? Well, let's dive in and find out. But first, a quick recap of the episode. Online prediction apps are all the rage in South Park, and Kyle is horrified to discover that his friends are betting on whether his mom will attack a hospital in Gaza. Cartman knows she won't, but since triggering her and Kyle is basically his superpower, he comes up with a way to juice the odds. So long as he keeps both of them angry and offended, the gambling degenerates will think her attack is imminent. Kyle tries to get the bet removed from the app, but is given the runaround by Donald Trump Jr., who has been installed as a special advisor across nearly every regulatory agency. Meanwhile, Vance tells Trump that his upcoming butt baby will compromise his easy lifestyle, so Trump tries to lure Satan into a series of quote accidents, only for them to be accidentally set off by Brendan Carr, current head of the FCC, landing him in the hospital stuck in a not so subtle gesture. Vance warns him that he better stop getting in the way, because that baby is not going to take his spot as the next president. Fed up with everyone asking her about Gaza, Sheila decides to take a trip to Israel herself, making Cartman panic that she might actually do it. So at his encouragement, Kyle calls the Israeli and American governments, also advised by Don Jr., and pleads to take it down. Jr. pulls the bet, and Cartman is relieved until he finds out Sheila only went to Israel to chew out Netanyahu. The end. Okay, so like the other episodes I've covered this season, the meaning of the episode is right there in the title, Conflict of Interest.
It's called a conflict of interest, you guys. It's a way to make free money. Isn't that illegal?
A conflict of interest occurs when someone holds two competing obligations or roles, and fulfilling one corrupts the other. By my count, the title carries at least 5 distinct meanings in the context of this episode, so let's break them down. The first one is quite simple. The conflict in the Middle East is the subject of the episode. It's deeply tragic and quite complex, and therefore it is a conflict that people are interested in. Of course, the cynical South Park take is that people are interested in the conflict not because of the moral implications, but because it can earn them some free money. That's it. On to the next one. Then there's Don Jr., who's depicted as working as a strategic advisor for predictive markets, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the FCC, Israel, and the White House. In real life, Jr. has started a new lucrative career as an advisor to a number of companies, including at least 2 predictive gambling apps, Polymarket and Kalshi, the mixed martial arts group, and the drone company Unusual Machines. Ostensibly, these are standard business arrangements, but as we all know, Don Jr. is an active political surrogate for his father, so any meaningful distinction between his corporate advisory duties and his ability to offer political access, potentially influencing policy and regulation, is effectively non-existent. The potential shady conflicts of interest are endless. He could access non-public information and use it to benefit the companies he advises. He could influence regulations that impact these gambling apps, or he could give the drone company a competitive advantage in government contracts. This, of course, also opens the door to foreign influence, but I'm sure none of this is going to happen because he's certainly been hired because of his business acumen, right? Strategic advisor is really just a euphemism for corruption. In the closing credits, every role is listed as strategic advisor, mocking the idea that this title has any real substance. The third meaning concerns chair of the FCC Brendan Carr, undoubtedly in the show's crosshairs due to the pressure he recently put on Disney to suspend Jimmy Kimmel over some very mild comments about Charlie Kirk. Freedom of speech has always been South Park's pet issue, so the relentless suffering Carr faces works on 2 levels. On one hand, it's a dare. See if this dude has the guts to come after South Park. On the other, it's punishment for what the creators see as a fundamental violation of the principle they hold most dear, censorship.
If the toxoplasmosis parasite gets to his brain, I'm afraid he may lose his freedom of speech.
What's supposed to be an independent regulatory agency that makes decisions free from political pressure increasingly seems like just an attack dog used to go after media outlets critical of Trump.
The newscasts are against me. The stories are 97% bad. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally.
And when you have cronies suppressing opposition and controlling the mass media to consolidate power, you can't help but think, well, The salute says it all. The fourth meaning is Cartman's scheme.
Dude, Kyle's mom isn't going to strike Gaza. Yes, exactly. We know that. And we can also influence Kyle to get the odds raised even more.
As a bettor, he's supposed to be a neutral participant in the gambling market and predict outcomes with the same information as everyone else. But by actively trolling Sheila and Kyle, he's also shaping the conditions that affect those odds. Plus, he sort of knows she won't do anything, so he's playing both sides, thus the conflict. Now, the fifth one is where I think the episode touches on something interesting. At the end, Sheila confronts Netanyahu and tells him,
"Just who do you think you are? Killing thousands and flattening neighborhoods, then wrapping yourself in Judaism like it's some shield from criticism. You know what you're doing, and you're doing it on purpose."
And here I think the show draws a parallel between Cartman's conflict of interest and Netanyahu's. As prime minister, he's supposed to be accountable for political and military decisions as the head of a modern state, but by casting those same decisions as inseparable from Judaism, he positions himself as a representative of a global religion. He can't simultaneously be a politician accountable for specific debatable policies and a symbolic guardian of a faith where criticism can be dismissed as just bigotry. State policy and religious identity should be separated, but he entangles them deliberately.
It's not Jews versus Palestine, it's Israel versus Palestine.
Basically, both Cartman and Netanyahu exploit the same trick, collapsing two roles that should remain separate in order to further their personal interests. And I think you can take this in a further, darker direction, in that both of them actually benefit from prejudice. With Cartman, the more hate he conjures up, the more fired up Sheila gets, and the better the betting odds become. With Bibi, the more hate, the more proof that Israel must act aggressively, and the more emboldened he becomes. Therefore, if Bibi, in Sheila's words, cloaks himself in Judaism and directs hate toward the religion, not Israel, then he can justify any political or military action, no matter how extreme, because then it's not about advancing political goals, but protecting an entire identity group. Wrapped up in this whole thing is a quite depressing reflection on internet economies, whether it's online betting or social media content. They both incentivize people to lean into outrage. The instigators of that outrage may just be pushing buttons for money or enjoyment, but the negative passions they stir up are very real. Sheila's friends ask her if she's going to do anything about the issue.
And do you feel like you need to do anything about it?
But for them, it's more about having fun chasing easy money than advancing a moral cause.
Yeah, let's take the long odds. That makes these apps more fun. Yeah.
Now, I can't end this video without talking about the strange delay last week. While Matt and Trey chalked it up to procrastination, and I have no reason to believe that they're lying, it is strange that they've been doing this 6-day sprint for over a decade, and to my knowledge, have never missed a deadline.
Because there just is a deadline, and you can't keep going. Because there'd be so many shows that I'm like, no, it's not ready yet, not ready, and I would have spent 4 weeks on one show.
Then it just so happens that when the biggest news story of the year hits, one that casts one of their recent episodes in a new light, they don't make their deadline. Weird, right? Well, I don't think there's any conspiratorial censorship going on. In fact, the Brendan Carr gags are pretty much South Park's way of promising us that they're not scared of anyone. But, and this is pure speculation, if I had to guess, Matt and Trey were working on a Charlie Kirk episode, but canned it because either it was just too sensitive to get right while still being satirical and humorous, or because the facts of the case were shifting so fast that it was impossible to nail down a coherent take that wouldn't age really poorly. Maybe one day we'll see the unfinished secret episode. And while I was watching this one, I couldn't shake the feeling that Sheila being cornered by her friends about where she stands on the Middle East mirrors Matt and Trey being cornered into saying something about Kirk.
Are you implying that Jews in America have some kind of obligation to do something about it? Whoa!
Just as Sheila doesn't have to answer for the actions of Israel just because she's part of the tribe, maybe Matt and Trey feel like they don't have to comment on Kirk just because they mocked him a couple episodes ago. Or maybe Trey and Matt's IRL friends are fishing for South Park spoilers to get in on some of that easy predictions money. It's probably just projection on my part because it's what I expected them to do, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Overall, this is probably my least favorite episode of the season so far. It's not that it wasn't incisive and well structured, it was. For me, it just wasn't that funny. Oh, and before I go, some of you have asked why I didn't cover the Labubu episode, and you deserve an answer. The answer is simple. If I don't feel like I can say something beyond a surface level recap, I'd rather not force a video. I guess pretty similar to what I'm predicting Trey went through. It was a funny episode, but I didn't have anything substantive to add, so I'm sorry. It happens. Anyway, be sure to subscribe for more South Park breakdowns. Check out my Ko-fi page if you want to support the channel. Every donation is greatly appreciated. Next video is on weapons, and after that Midsummer, because you know it's spooky season. And of course, more South Park breakdowns are coming. Don't forget to follow me on Letterboxd. Hope you guys are having a great fall, and I'll see you next time. Peace.